Welcome to the Freud's Angels weekly reading, bringing the collective guidance and understanding for this week's energy.
Remember, never give your power up to a reader or a reading. You always have the power of autonomy. Hey, angels, guess what? We're back together.
Mhm. Well, same.
Well,
Yeah.
to our normal together.
It feels like same room.
Oh my gosh. It's been fun to catch up. This is your weekly reading from October 20th to October 26th. We are coming off of this Aries full moon that I had a good day the first 2 days, but then by the second day by the day after that evening, shit went south. But not in a bad way, but in a way of like, oh, okay. Yeah, there's my shadow. Hi, shadow.
Yeah.
And but again, too, is that in the result of that understanding and feeling an event, it was like, okay, it gave me inspiration. So it all works for a reason and it's all fine. But wanted to check in, see if y'all are all right, still maybe under the covers. I get it. But yeah, hoping you all are okay. So, Vanessa, let's talk to the mermaids. What are they saying this week?
Let us talk to the mermaids. The mermaids want us to look at miracles and believe in miracles and explore the miracle concept. The card itself, it's funny because like if you block out the word, it actually looks like a flow, but also she's got one hand extended open, like she's just waiting for something to go into it. It's almost like Thor's hammer where he puts his hand out and like the hammer just comes into his hand, right? Like I feel like that energy is there. So you wouldn't necessarily think the word miracles by this looking at the card if you didn't have the word on it. But I think that, and this is just my interpretation of it, that is the energy of the card of being like, just expect that you open your hand and the thing comes there, whatever that is, whether it feels like it's easier or hard, it'll happen. And we like to call things miracles because of things that we think are unlikely. Like unlikely things are miracles because like, wow, I didn't think that was going to happen. And then it did, right? Like, but if we always expect that things are going to happen, then what is a miracle? And so that was like, when it came out this time, I was like, whoa, where is this coming from? Because usually when I see the card, I'm just like, oh my God, believe in miracles and like be a miracle. And, it's this very, very light. But this was definitely like, well, what do you think a miracle is? And how many things in your life do you think will only get better with a miracle?
Yeah.
Versus expectation of like, that can get better. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow, where did that come from?
Hello.
So yeah, I was like, thanks for that. Like, because it's fun. It's fun when you let it be fun. But yeah, like in my own life, thinking of like, wow, do I think that happening would be a miracle? Because then that would mean that in my brain, it feels very unlikely. And that's not very trusting of the universe and self and co-creation, is it? And then also, like I think sometimes when we are a little bit in the dumps and we're a little bit like, man, it's going to take a friggin' miracle because wow, I can't get out of my own way. I have no idea. I have no vision. I just have nothing because I've been there and I've been there recently.
Same.
I think sometimes we look for those stories as our inspiration.
Yeah.
And recently I had a personal friend who healed a tumor, like not even really intentionally. Like she didn't sit down and do meditation specifically to heal this tumor, which is what I think, most of us in the woo-woo world think of and see. But I mean, it literally happened where there was a mass on a CAT scan multiple times, and then over time, because they were dealing with other medical issues, it was gone by the time they started to do intervention. And I was like, that is a friggin' miracle, right? It feels very unlikely. And especially because there was no intention behind it. How did that happen? Right. And regardless of whether or not I even knew the story of whether or not she intentionally healed it, it felt miraculous, and it gave me the boost of being like, man, anything is possible. Truly anything is possible. Why would you ever give up, or why would you ever not try, or why would you ever quit before even putting your energy in spaces? Because man, anything is possible. So I
Yeah.
feel like that's what this card is saying, is like, just put your hand out and expect that something awesome, expect Thor's hammer to just come right into your hand and give you the power and give you whatever it is that you want. And believe that you being here is a miracle in and of itself. So therefore you attract all the things that you desire, want, feel aligned with.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I love that.
No, it's like such a place like, well, now I have to think about my own life and what I think are miracles that would happen and how I do or do not believe in myself. Well, thanks. This was supposed to
Right?
be
It's
for other people.
totally, totally. It's like, oh my God. Um,
What we got going on over there?
oh my gosh. Well, you know, I don't know when the last time we received this card. It was been a long time,
Okay.
but I think that it's an important card. So the surrender card for the week is surrender denial. Ugh.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
accept people and situations exactly as they are without denying the difficulties. Then you can see things clearly and make the best decisions, right? So here's the thing, and here's the situation. I had a moment where I was presented with information and like in the situation, and it felt like that person was all or nothing, right? It was all or nothing. It was what they wanted, and but it made me feel not great because it made me feel like I thought I was on a different page and that we were like, okay, like all right, I thought something completely different and it wasn't. And so in that, I tried to convince myself that the feelings I felt was, oh, you're just overreacting. It's okay. I'm sure it's fine, right? Denying my own feelings because I think we think denial is, as it says, like denying the situation of how hard it is. But I think it's also it's deeper in that the denial of our own feelings
Yeah.
because our feelings are valid. They're there. They're showing up for a reason
Mhm.
even if it's because you made meaning of something that isn't in alignment with what that person intended, it doesn't matter. What matters is how you're reacting and feeling. Now, with understanding it and allowing your feelings to be present and understanding what they're telling you, the more you can understand what that heart, that feeling, that emotion is asking for, right? If it's worried that, oh my gosh, like that person thinks I'm stupid or they don't, or whatever conversation's happening in your head, step back. If you're like, oh my gosh, this part is coming up, I'm feeling this way because it's triggered because it's because of this or that. You have the opportunity to give it what it needs and ask it what it needs, right? What did feeling stupid need? It needed to know that I would do what I could do to protect it at all costs.
Mhm.
And so in that, I went through this process of conversation I was going to have with that person and how he may respond or in that. And so, as we do, because we're in our heads knitting sweaters all day,
Mhm.
but going through it, allowing it to kind of create those conversations allowed me to continue and to allow it to release, diffuse, whatever that process was, and then step into the idea of how do I approach a situation that is through my heart and not through my upset? I'm not denying that I'm upset. I'm not telling my upset it's invalid. I'm not telling it to go away. I'm giving it the room to say what it needs to say, how it thinks it needs to solve the issue, and then begin to kind of offer it what it needs through that process in order for it to go like, yeah, but we don't want to say it like that. We don't want to be mad and shout and be angry and just cut people off. We don't want to do that because that isn't
Mhm.
who we are and it doesn't feel good. It feels yucky. And
Mhm.
so by the time that that was over, 4 a.m., it was it gave us the ability, it gave us, me and my emotions, my feelings, the ability to be like, okay, what feels in the best alignment with who we are, what we want to say, and how we want to approach it without stepping into being accusatory, without
Mhm.
stepping into offering like that sense of like, you're out, I'm cutting you out of my life because of what? And it gives the chance for me to say what I need to say and to share my feelings and how I reacted to it. But at the same time, being grateful that that person even told you what they wanted to tell you, right? And
Yeah.
it was because here's the thing is that that knowledge helped me shift directions and helped me shift my energy and helped me understand my reaction to it. So it gave me a whole bunch of information and then gave me inspiration on how I needed to handle it, but also inspiration of how, like, being without that situation, right? Being without that person or out without that, without that friendship or whatever. And it kind of allowed me to make a choice that was right for me versus allowing it to take over and be reactionary,
Mhm.
being
Okay.
defensive, being protective. It allowed me to check in and say, well, what do we want? What do we need right now? Do we need to share how we felt and how we're grateful that that they showed us that part of themselves so that we could make it, that we could be different? Yeah, because especially, I mean, I don't know about you, but I hate a confrontation,
Yeah.
especially with like a male friend,
No,
right?
thanks. Yeah.
Forget it. I
I'd
hate a
rather avoid the
confrontation.
shit out of that.
Yeah, exactly. Like master avoiding of all
Yeah.
confrontation. But my parts and the parts of me are learning how to do it in a way that isn't the way my childhood was confrontational, right?
Yeah.
It isn't the shouting, it isn't the screaming, it isn't the yelling, it isn't the hitting, it isn't the threatening. That is not confrontation, that is abuse, okay?
Yeah.
And in learning that confrontation can be soft, it can be gentle, but it can be firm and it can be in equity of both people or me and the situation. It but it's also allowing the decision. When I'm removing the denial of my emotions, it allows me the decision of entering in the space with my needs and what it is I need and what
Yeah.
I want. And it doesn't, and maybe those needs aren't met, and that's fine, but I'm not letting the situation dictate my life. I'm not allowing it to, like, the feelings and the emotions to shut me down and being defensive and responsive. It's me taking proactive motion into saying, this is what I need in this situation. And if it's not possible, then okay, then I need to exit. It's making a
Yeah.
decision that is best rather than a protective measure. That was a really long monologue about this, but I don't know
Yeah, it
why.
was good because it needed to be like more outliney, I think, of like, here's how it shows up because we're using blanket words, right? Like denial, confrontation, right? And like having somebody be able to actually go on the journey of like what the denial initially looks like and then how it morphs and how the interaction part of it, like, and then into confrontation, right? Because when we're in denial, it's because we don't want to confront either the emotion because of, well, we don't want to confront the emotion because of what we're going to have to do about it, right? Like, I mean, in reality, right? Either it's going to be confronting ourselves or we're going to be confronting somebody else, and we don't want that confrontation. But learning that denial is basically the opposite of acceptance, right? Like if I'm pushing something away that actually exists, and radical acceptance is one of the most beautiful gifts that we can give ourselves. And that means in those moments of radically accepting, hey man, this is friction and I don't know what that means, but I'm going to look into it. And then if I have to quote unquote confront somebody, I'm going to have that different expectation like you outlined of saying, confrontation isn't what I used to think it was. It isn't what has happened in my life where it's about forcing other people to do things, or that the only outcome is that I say, I confront you and you acquiesce, right? Like, because that's not the confrontation I'm looking for. That'll make me feel bad, especially as a people pleaser. So I'm like, I don't want to do that, right? But just learning like, hey, no, this is literally about voicing without expectation and letting the flow go from there. and
Yeah.
allowing myself to feel like I can use my voice and have my voice and be detached from the outcome of the other person and not take on their thing as my thing. Because when we think of denial, that's where the denial comes from, right? Like we don't deny things that we've not had trauma around or
Yeah.
programming around that tells us that bad things are about to happen.
Yes. Yes. And and I think too is and here's the thing is denial is not necessarily good or bad. It's just a reaction because we've learned we've used denial in order to keep us safe, in order to
Yeah.
keep what our brain thinks is safe or our trauma mind thinks is safe, even if it's not safe. But
Mhm.
it's a safety mechanism. And that's what it is. And it's when we can feel safe within ourselves and safe and trusting, it's that's when we can let go and then surrender that idea of that denial and allowing things to present as they are without needing to knit the sweaters. I keep saying that. It's my favorite new analogy of how we're in our heads and creating the stories, and we've written the novel before we've even had clarity on it. We've
Yeah. We didn't
decided
do
it.
any interviews. No
Yeah.
interviews.
It's like it's just we do, and I know we all do it because we're all
Yeah.
afraid because we've had
Yeah.
experiences that have taught us that if we are worried about how we're being perceived or what we're thinking and feeling, and we're constantly creating these stories to keep us safe. And I get it, it's a process, but it also does us a disservice and it keeps us isolated. And that's, denial is kind of also times when we don't want to face the truth because we think we're going to lose something. I think again, this is a place where I have had a lot of understanding in this past 3 months. I've only been in North Carolina for 3 months, friends, and it feels like I've been here for fucking years because of all the things I've, emotionally, mentally, and physically worked through in 3 months. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's like, no
Yeah.
wonder why
For
I'm
real.
tired. So,
For real.
it's when we're especially people pleasers, we don't ever want to believe in the bad of people. We don't want to believe how people hurt us or even how people are not wanting to or not hurting us, but what our interactions and our connections are not healthy, right? And having made that decision coming here, there was a part of it about releasing some energetic attachments that were had me processing energy that wasn't mine, and that's why
Mm.
I wasn't inspired. I made, it's not that I made forward movement, but I made a lot of discoveries, but I just felt tired. I couldn't finish the journey of the discovery because I was exhausted all the time because
Yeah.
I was energetically processing someone else's emotions and feelings, which, we do that to a degree with everybody that we love and care for. But this was on a very deep soul level. And when I kept telling myself it wasn't true. I kept
Yeah.
telling myself that, no, it's okay. I'm just being kind and empathetic and understanding. Or I've made excuses like, oh, well, that person doesn't, most people don't understand them. And most people they don't have non judgment for that person. And so I gave myself this role that I was
Mhm.
going to be this person, which I am, but I don't necessarily have, that means I have to take care of that person. I don't have to
Mhm.
live their life for them because I'm that person. But I was in deep, deep, deep denial because I didn't want to see it for what it was. And knowing and seeing it and admitting it and taking actions to leave, it was not done in a way of being angry at the situation because partly it was my creation, but it was being like, no, this is for both of our higher good because we I'm not allowing that person to heal and evolve and take responsibility. And I am also not allowing myself to move forward. And it was
Yeah.
done with so much love when I could release that denial that eventually that person will live a better life because I am not there.
Mhm.
And I will live a better life because I am not living their life for them.
Yeah.
And none of that
100%.
was wrong. And none of it was shameful. And everything was the way it needed to be in order for both of us to get to where we are here. But it's going to take some time because there is with energetically unplugging from people, it's hard. It's hard not in a sense of wanting to go back to it, but it's hard in the energy sense of there is definite physical feeling of loss when that happens.
Mhm.
And depending on either side of the situations, it's also emotional and mental, and there's a lot of struggle that happens. But I had to be in denial because for whatever reason I had to be there.
Yeah.
And when I was ready to not be, it just the truth showed, and the truth became like part of the awakening of when I was ready to let it go and move
Mhm.
forward. So
Mhm.
denial isn't bad, but sometimes we need to understand is that allow it to come when it's coming. If it's showing up and it's asking you to see it, the truth of it, then it's saying the denial no longer serves you. Please release it, let it go, and move forward. And
Yeah. And if we learn that about ourselves, the faster we learn about it, the easier the lessons come. Because when we're in denial and we deny that we're in denial, it gets louder and harder, right? Like, and so when we go
yeah,
back and we look and go, so how many times, when was the first time I can remember being like, no, that's not the way, because
right.
that was one of the good times. That would have been a really
Yeah,
good time to not be like to confront my denial and see what I could do to shift that, because it got louder and louder and harder and harder. And I'm trying to not have things have to be louder and harder for me to learn those lessons.
yeah, 1,000%, 1,000%. So, anyways, my friends, I hope that helps this week. I hope moving into the end of the week, we're moving into like a lot of intuitive spaces, like because we're close to Halloween, the veil is very thin. It is very, really close. If you have intuitive sparks or intuitive children, my friend has a child who's a Pisces, and she's very intuitive and very connected. And so she's been up from 2 to like 5 every morning. And I'm like, told my friend, yeah, she's talking to dead people. That's why
Yeah.
she's up. And she's like, oh, really? Like, could we not? Because I'm tired of being up between 2 and 5 a.m.
Yeah, like, I'm not talking to dead people. I don't want to be
Yeah.
up.
So yeah, so if you have children who are awake at God only knows when, just know that it's an energetic thing. It could be because fun fact, and I hope she doesn't mind me sharing this, and I don't know if she'll hear this reading, but um she her child talked about her mom, like my friend's mom, and she's been passed for many many years, and and she was like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, yeah," because they're all coming through, sharing, talking. It's
Yeah.
like it's ancestral time. If you have altars, it's time to build, to
Mhm.
add ancestral items and to connect with your family and your ancestors, and it's a deep time to do that. So, if you have any ancestral work to do, that now's the time to do it because we are in that season of it. But
Yeah.
also know your own intuitions are kind of be pretty off the chart right now. So
Yes. And we're
allow
not going to
that
be
to
in denial of them. We are going to
right.
be in acceptance
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
in comfortable confrontation.
Right? Exactly.
And we're going to expect miracles.
Non-violent communication.
Yeah. 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 Right.
So, friends, we have made the decision that we will come to you live the first Wednesday of every month, on Facebook. I think, yeah, Facebook, right? We're
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
do
We didn't talk
Facebook.
about that. So we're going to talk about it right now.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
was like, oh yeah, we haven't talked about the whole Instagram like process.
Yeah. We didn't. It was so messed up last
Yeah,
time we tried to do both. But
yeah.
yeah,
Well, I don't,
we'll let you know.
yeah. There will be posts, and you'll probably see more videos of my face because for some reason I enjoy doing videos and talking to you guys because that's how I do it. So, yeah. So mark your calendars. We are starting in November, and that I don't know what is the first Wednesday of November. I don't remember. Hold on, I'll find out. That is the second. No, the sixth.
No.
The sixth. Yeah. So November 6th is our first live. We are changing it up a little bit. We're doing it by donation. And we will have some parameters about, what we're doing and how many we're doing so that we're not there until midnight. We are going to start at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, to give everyone time to have dinner, to put their kiddos to bed, to take a minute and breathe after work and just kind of change into your pajamas and get, a drink of your choice, whatever it may be, water, tea, or something different. And and join us. And we're just giving you a space to kind of get some information, check in with spirit and all that. But more details to come. But we hope you'll join us every first Wednesday of the month. We love you
Yeah.
guys, and join us in the podcast. It's coming. So we're
Yay.
actually going to do a podcast this week, I promise. And we will see you then.
Yeah. Love you. Thanks for listening.
We hope we gave you something to support your journey.
Check out our Facebook or Instagram page to connect with us.
Have a great week.